Good evening.
It is
Good evening.
it's 7 p.m. So we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order and get started. Mr. Gibbs, you have your disclosure.
I do. Good evening, everyone. This is pursuant to the governor's emergency declaration, this council meeting is being held via Zoom. Therefore, your attendance and participation in this meeting is your consent to be recorded. There is no reasonable expectation of privacy if you decide to participate in this meeting. Thank you, ma'am. At some point, I'm sorry, Madam President, if I may, during the public comment section, if you wish to be recognized, please indicate by raising your hand in the chat box. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Let me try to pull up our agenda. I just had it. We will ask our mayor to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Certainly. Let us pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, can you please proceed with roll call, beginning with our esteemed mayor?
Mayor Hopkins.
Present.
President Monroe.
Present.
Vice President Francis.
He just called me. I didn't want to disconnect the Zoom, so he may be having difficulty. Could someone give him a call?
Sure. Councilor Johnson.
Present.
Councilor Cave.
Hi, everybody, I'm here.
Councilor McCabe.
Present.
Councilor Jones Waters.
Present.
Councilor Rowe-Cloud.
Present.
Solicitor.
I'm here, everybody. Hello, good evening.
Ms. James. Ms. Mulvana.
Here.
Mr. Nichols.
Present.
I will look into what's going on with Ms. James and Vice President Francis, and that concludes roll call.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. James is here. She's being promoted as a panelist now.
All right, so we will move on to our citizens forum. Mr. Gibbs, can you let us know if there are any citizens wishing to speak?
Madam President, at this time, there are no hands raised. If you wish to be recognized, Ms. Garrell wants to be recognized, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ms. Garrell, can you state your name for the recording, please?
Mary Jacobs Garrell. Did you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you okay. Ms. Garrell, the floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Okay, I just have 2 questions. And I know that one issue was brought up before. I really have a concern about the format of the meeting. I mean, why can't it be such that we can see who is at the meeting? I understand that everybody is at their house, but with Zoom, you can have the fake background so nobody can see your house. A lot of residents don't even know who you guys are. And now people are coming around, ringing our bells, trying to get us to sign petitions to run, you know, which is, I guess, neither here nor there, but it's a fact. Why can't we see you all throughout the meeting, even if we can't talk? I mean, if we can't interact with you, I understand that. That's my first concern. My second one is, I understand that you need structure to keep the meeting going, but after the citizens forum, when you go through the different departments, the public has no way to ask a question about something we don't understand. Is there any way that could be altered? I mean, it could be something as small as, I didn't hear that, or what does that mean, for people to understand?
Thank you, Ms. Garrell. This would be the same format if we were live and in person. We didn't typically, even in person, accept questions from the audience outside of our citizens forum. So I guess the Zoom is actually a more personal interaction because we do allow some back and forth conversations, but this has always been the format. Mr. Gibbs, Mr. Gibbs, I just received correspondence from Mr. Francis that he's on the call but needs to be entered. Okay, Ms. Guerrero?
I understand that this has always been the form, but my question is this the way it always has to be? For example, when you all talked about shade trees at one of the last meetings, some of us don't have any idea what you mean by shade trees. So should we have to wait another week or another month to say, what do you mean shade trees? Or if somebody's talking about some construction, things like that. It's the chat box. I don't even know if it's up. Well, I see it's up now, but I just don't understand why there can't be some other place in the meeting where a question can be asked without interrupting. I'm not asking for people to disrupt the meeting. I'm just saying at the beginning of the meeting is the only time a citizen can voice a concern.
So our borough is also open for business, and our borough manager is very responsive to questions as well. So these legislative and caucus meetings are to conduct the business of the borough. Our committee meetings are where we hear from our constituents for the specific departments. And so each counselor is typically assigned a committee meeting to oversee. And then at this meeting, those counselors bring what was discussed in those committees to the caucus meeting, to our government meeting. And that's, for instance, you brought up shade tree. The co-committee and the Public Works Committee met to discuss shade tree at their committee meeting extensively. And then the result was what was brought to caucus. So it would be at those meetings. This meeting is kind of a consensus of all of those.
So that's when the public just needs to be a part of those meetings if they have a question about it.
Yes, ma'am. Or you can also reach out directly to borough management for specific questions as well. But the government meetings have always been set up as a consensus.
Thank you for explaining that.
Madam
Not a
President,
problem.
can I ask a quick question on that same topic, Madam President?
Mr. Cade?
I know before, I think in previous versions of the caucus meetings, I think there was a brief like question and answer section at the end of the caucus meeting based off of topics that were raised during the caucus. Like, so there was a quick citizens forum in the beginning, and then a quick question and answer forum at the end. I know it was done away with because it was abused during those formats. There was some grandstanding and stuff like that. But I mean, I mean, if you're okay with that, I'd be open to something like that, like a quick one though, because citizens don't really have the opportunity to talk about things that are newly discussed in the caucus meetings at any point. So let's say we bring it up at caucus, they can't bring it up, they can't talk about it at the end of caucus, and they can't talk about it at legislative. So citizens technically don't have that opportunity.
All right, so how about, I think that'll help you compromise in the interest of time, and the public being heard as well would be to, if there are any questions that develop during the course of the meeting, you can throw them in the chat section, and if they can't be answered in the chat section, or if there's something that would be for the good of the group, will you let the technology lead us and have those addressed by either management or Mr. Gibbs at the end of the meeting. So if you, in the interim, if you hear something that you have a question about or may not understand, please make sure you drop that question in the chat section, and that may help us continue on and then have some clarifications at the end. Thank you for the suggestion, Councilor Cade.
Madam President, may I for just one moment?
Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. I do understand what the community person is saying. From history, and I'm actually saying history, I think I'm probably the senior to the history from years in past. There has always been. It was changed by some other regimes. But there has always been in the past that caucus meeting was for the involvement of the community, just as the community person spoke just then. When Public Works, when safety, when whomever is giving their report to the community, that is the time for the community to ask questions, but not to prolong the meetings, but to have involvement. And we always, at that particular time, and I'm talking years now, we always at that particular time did discuss also what we were going to legislate on legislative night.
Okay, so Councilor Johnson, if I could also remind you that those meetings went into the well beyond the 3-hour marks at times, even into midnight at one point, and with not much being resolved during that time. And the biggest difference that was implemented to help streamline the process was to have the committee meetings during the time where there was a lot of prolonged discussions during the caucus meeting was when the community had been excluded from the committee meetings. So the way that we kind of brought this back full circle was to make sure that the community had the individual committee meetings so that they can discuss more in depth what was going on, and then come and also have a counselor assigned to those committee meetings as a liaison to the council. So between the council and the community, so they could bring those concerns, comments, recommendations from the committee back to the caucus. So it's either, it was either do everything in one 3 to 5 hour call, or have individual meetings where community members could discuss the different departments, and then a counselor would bring the consensus or the summary of that meeting back to the full body, which is, for instance, I know our public safety committee, which our mayor and Councilor Dr. McCabe chairs. They have their standing meeting, and then they bring a report back to council with the concerns, accolades, recommendations. So it's really just streamlining the process. It's like 6 in one hand, half a dozen on the other. Are we going to have a prolonged an exhausting meeting where we have breakout rooms where everyone can come back and be presented with a summary? So community members such as Ms. Garrell, who may not have 5 hours to commit to a council meeting, but does have a code concern, can go to a code meeting and address what she needed to address, but also hear what was discussed at other meetings in summary. So it's really just organization and streamlining a process. That makes any sense.
Thank you, and not to prolong this meeting, I'll speak with you later on the issue.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Gibbs, are there any other citizens wishing to speak?
No, ma'am.
All right.
I'm sorry, Madam President, the other part of my question about the way that the Zoom is set up, is there any way we can, I don't know what you call it, maybe without being a webinar, so we can see who else is attending? Like I said, you have people have come to my door running for office, and my first question to them is, I've never seen you at a council meeting, but now you want to be on council. How do I even know that you know what's going on? You want me to not vote for who I did vote for and vote for you, but you don't even come to the meetings.
Ms. Garrell, can I
That
address
is a very legitimate question, Ms. Garrell, and thank you for Mr. Gibbs.
Ms. Garrell, so we have attempted to publicize our council meetings as regular Zoom meetings. The issue is the moment we put up a link on a website or on social media, we get security warnings. So the last 2 months, we've had basically Zoom bombs. So we don't want to put our meetings in a place where people have to pre-register, because that's not fair to the public to have them pre-register. But just today, if you indulge me, we publicized our meeting, and Zoom sent out an email almost immediately. It's called Zoom, your meeting is at risk. We're reaching out to you because you have a meeting scheduled on your Zoom account and it's been posted online. It's an open door, and they recommend that you use a webinar for public meetings.
Thank you very much for explaining that to me.
And the last meeting last month, our council meeting, we had 200 people show up in like between 6:45 when I opened the meeting up and 6:50. So I had to close it down and start over. The month before that, we had to set out a whole new Zoom link.
I have a question for the solicitor, please.
Councilor Road Cloud.
Good evening, solicitor.
Good evening, Council.
I'm glad you said something about the Zoom bomb. So my question to you is, when the borough schedule any meeting via Zoom and the meeting is at risk of being bombed, you indicated you get an email. Correct?
I don't necessarily get an email. This is the first time I received an email.
Okay, so here's my problem. So when I had my code committee meeting the other day, it was Zoom bombed. And it was very upsetting and very embarrassing, to say the least.
Yes,
it
ma'am.
was upsetting because I had no control whatsoever over the meeting. I didn't have the opportunity to have people wait in the waiting room so they can be identified. I didn't have the opportunity to mute individuals if they were saying something that was inappropriate. And I noticed when other meetings are scheduled through the borough, those type of safeguards are utilized, but my meeting was not. Therefore, I had residents that had to hear some very inappropriate names, and they were upset, and I was upset, and I just don't understand how we're scheduling these meetings when some meetings are, some meetings have safeguards and some meetings don't. And my meeting was one of them that did not.
So I don't know about code meetings. As a solicitor, my firm purchased at the beginning of COVID an incredibly large Zoom account. The only meetings I'm responsible for are the caucus meeting and the council meeting. That's the only thing I know anything about.
And yeah, Mr. Gibbs, the borough's account is not connected to the caucus or legislative sessions. So our account is a regular Zoom account, and not every time, but we always don't get warned that it's going to be bombed or that we're at risk for anything, and it's happened consistently. I guess you have a super duper account, Mr. Gibbs. Your law firm probably has protection, but the one that we have as a borough, we don't have those same protections, unfortunately.
So this is one of those concerns that's happening nationwide, and even if you take the precautions, and there's still an opportunity for someone to intentionally sabotage a meeting. I know that in one of our neighboring school districts, they were Zoom bombed with some hateful rhetoric as well. So this is the criminal masterminds have much more time on their hands to figure out how to be disruptive than we can even keep up with. So we will definitely have management take a look at what it is that what could be done a little differently if there's anything. But this is also, hacking is a risk that we take getting online all the time. And I am very sorry that happened to you. But we can continue to discuss it with management.
And one of the things that we try to avoid for public meetings or waiting rooms, because it gives someone the opportunity to exclude someone. So while today for a webinar, the panel is sort of members of council and department heads, when we do a regular meeting, I can't set up a waiting room. and there's not a body of law yet, but the Borough Association, Solicitor Association, has recommended we use our common sense, and we wouldn't normally have someone waiting outside the room saying, you can come in, you can't. So webinar has been the best avenue, at least for me, to help make sure that we're complying with our open meeting sunshine laws.
All right. Thank you so much. We will move on to our mayor's report now.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. I will go over a few things, although my report stands as submitted, but I will highlight a few things. We had a special mayor's forum, which, to Ms. Gorell's point, some of the ideas that come out of the committee meetings are sometimes many times advanced, and this is something that came out of the public safety, that we invite the county to explain the health center, and we did that at the Mayor's Forum last Thursday, March 4th. It was the first of 4 quarterly Mayor's Forum that we hold each year. And our special guest was Councilor Kevin Madden and the county health advisor, Dr. Lisa O'Mahony. And they provided an extensive update on the health center and the vaccine rollout plan. The main issue with the vaccine is just not enough. And we've been shortchanged in Delaware County. They said there is well over 100,000 people in Delaware County signed up for the vaccine, and they only got 1,000 vaccines like a couple of weeks ago, and they're still waiting. That shortfall, there's a couple of complexities with that. That shortfall comes from the state to the county, and many of our elected officials have taken the ball to the state to complain. Mary Gay Scanlon being one of them, Senator Anthony Williams being one of them, to complain about the rollout or the lack of vaccines. The other concern folks had was that people like us they observed that there were not a lot of people like us observed getting the vaccine. They responded that a lot of that because it was still in 1A, and that the vaccine was mainly in that category, frontline workers, healthcare providers, and many of those happen to be Caucasian. However, we set up another meeting to discuss how we can ramp that up for Yeadon residents. Not only that, we would like information about jobs so that our community have access to the new jobs that will be created with the new health center, which will turn into a wellness center. So we had that meeting, and I'll have Madam President Monroe explain more of that, what our plan is going to be to ramp up the vaccine for Yeadon residents. The only other thing that I want to report is that, again, the Niall's doing a great job in distributing food, box food every Saturday, and it's gotten so popular. They give out at least 1,000 boxes each Saturday, but it's created traffic problems on Union Avenue. So we were able to move it starting next Saturday to have it at Mercy Fitzgerald Hospital in their parking lot to avoid there's a lot more space back there to accommodate the cars. So starting on Saturday, we'll have it at that. It'll be moved to that site. So there ends my report, Madam President.
Thank you so much.
I have a question if I could.
Councilor Roll Cloud?
You indicated that there was a perception that only, well, a perception that people that look like us was not in the lines to receive the vaccination. And the reason was because they were giving out they were still in the phase 1A, and that included essential workers and essential workers. So there are some African Americans who are essential workers. That's first and foremost. Second of all, I did speak to Counselor Monica Taylor from the county, and she did advise that she received some complaints about the perception with respect to the vaccination. And she indicated that she was in absolute agreement that people like us were not getting that vaccination simply because when the rollout started, people had to apply for same via computer. And unfortunately, in underserved communities, a lot of times we don't have that access. And if we do have that access, unfortunately, we don't know how to navigate that system. And 1A included a lot of, I believe, people over the age of 65. So I'm not saying people over that age do not know how to navigate computers, but what I am saying, a lot of people do not. And that's why it was a great injustice. And she said as a result of that, she actually started forming the call centers. And as of last week, they tripled the number of staff in their call centers so they can have people call in and schedule for this vaccination. She also indicated that the county partnered with COSA so they can serve as a liaison with the senior centers, so they can also identify individuals who are eligible for that vaccine. And she also indicated that, I wrote these things down here.
So Councilor Roll Cloud, if I could for a moment.
Oh, and wait, well, one more, because she wanted me to share this information.
So Councilor Roll Cloud, we've had
indicated that she also indicated that the county outsourced to a company to also assist with the overflow of calls. So it's to say that, you know, people that do not look like us that were in the long lines was because they were, you know, essential workers. It's a little insulting because there are African American essential workers in Yeadon, work right there at that hospital. But this is the real reason Mayor, why it was looking that way. It was looking that way because we didn't have the proper access. Our folks didn't have the proper access, nor did they have the proper help to navigate that computer system. So other avenues had to be taken. So
thank you, Councilor Roll Cloud, for your
wanted
update.
me to relay when she gave
everything you said was addressed with the special meeting that we had with Councilman Madden and the health advisor. Every single thing you said with
Mayor, do you mind if I could
go ahead.
Follow up? Because so this was a group collaborative, and after the meeting that we had at the mayor's forum, that we had Councilman Madden as well as Dr. Mahoney. We you know, the county did not take this lightly, and the mayor did not portray that there are no essential workers. That the meeting was designed to identify the barriers and that were present for Yeadon residents. You know, we also need to realize that, you know, Delaware County is not predominantly African American. But however, the health center was placed in the area that is predominantly African American, and the county was very forthright in addressing that and being a partner in resolving that issue. So after identifying the problem, we at the mayor's forum decided to take the next steps. They did not, and the county was very supportive in hearing our concerns, and they admitted that optics are not what they appear to be, and it was not by design or by intention. There are 192,000 people registered for COVID vaccines in the 1A category, and they are receiving a little under, we as Delaware County are receiving a little under 4,000. So we also need to realize that the list existed before the Wellness Center even opened. So after understanding exactly where we were, we had another meeting that included our senior centers. Christine Hellman-Dollar and Dr. Mahoney came back on. Rosemary Holt is the organizer of the health center. I'm not sure of her exact title, but she serves in more of an executive director role there. And Dr. McCabe as public safety was on the call as well. And we are going to have specific senior resident days at the Wellness Center going forward. So yes, and we reached out to Clay Payne because we know our older constituents also utilize our library a lot. So Mr. Payne has generated 2 lists of seniors. Counselor Dr. McCabe, we all gave our input about how we can remove those barriers. So going forward, starting as early as next week, there will be specific days that are dedicated solely to vaccinating 1A candidates in the Yeadon area. And we are collecting lists, and the county has agreed to provide direct scheduling through the borough. So this is the type of commitment that is unprecedented, that they would allow us access to their scheduling system. So we get the names and they get placed right directly on the schedule. So we are collecting. And then also we've reached out to Senator Williams's office, and on Sunday, he was able to secure 100 spaces for his constituents as well, and to be vaccinated at Upper Darby High School. So everyone understands that there are lines, there are lists, and there are barriers. And as we are identifying them, we are absolutely addressing them head on, and the county was completely supportive. So there were, as of today, I believe we have 116 names. And on the days that they are going to vaccinate Yeadon residents only, they can vaccinate a little over 100 a day. So we will, and all of this is dependent on the amount of vaccines that they get. If they do start to increase the volume of vaccines that are coming in, they will be able to increase that number. They also have committed to, once the one-shot Johnson & Johnson version comes out, that would be conducive to mass vaccinations, that would also be an option for vaccinating larger groups of residents. And the county, the health center, they are committed to serving Yeadon. And then as far as the jobs are concerned, they specifically are recruiting residents of Yeadon to fill those positions. And once we have agreed to post them on our websites and on other forums. So we have a partnership with the county that is unprecedented, that we have not had before, and that is definitely focused on serving our constituents. So I just wanted to thank everyone who came together to make that happen. But it was, it was great, and we will continue. There ends my report, and we will move on now to our manager's report.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Onion Road project is complete. Once council approves Ernell's invoice and the board of directors from the Delaware County Conservation District approves the balance of the grant to be paid, the borough will receive the remainder of the funds. We plan to apply for this grant again in October, provided there is a project within the borough that qualifies. Mr. Swerzik has decided not to accept the position with the Public Works Department. However, the new hires for code, Mr. Campbell III and Mr. Pyatt, will begin on Monday, 3/15, and Mr. Maxey will begin, bless you, baby, with Public Works on 3/22. Management provided council with an email regarding grants and projects on 3/5, March 5th. COVID-19 vaccinations are available and being given at multiple locations if you register for one. The information is available online, and there is a call center set up for COVID-19 related inquiries. The telephone number is 484-276-2100. You may also send an email to COVID-19 resources at co.delaware.pa.us. Please be reminded that there is a shortage of vaccinations, so it may take time to obtain one. Items in progress. There was an inquiry regarding the purchase of 508 Orchard Avenue, which was demolished and is currently on the Delaware County Repository tax sale list. Management recommends that council release this property for sale after conferring with the solicitor as to the legalities. The bike trail project is in progress. A questionnaire is being drafted to determine the focus. In addition, a steering committee is being formed and meetings have been attended and scheduled. If you would like to participate in the steering committee, please see management for more details. The Recreation Department, NDI, and management had a meeting with the National Fitness Campaign, NFC, about a grant opportunity for an outside fitness court/gym for the borough. These meetings took place on March 4th and today. The fitness court contains 7 zones that take 7 minutes each. It is appropriate for children 14 years of age through seniors. It is ADA compliant. It has diagrams and an app of workouts. There are varying warranties depending on the items. For example, the boxes and steps have a 3-year warranty, but the wall structure frames have a 25-year warranty. The center is graffiti-proof and can be cleaned with a cloth and water. The link to the video regarding the NFC was included in the report, and it's located at nationalfitnesscampaign.com/watch. A free site analysis was conducted by the NFC. We went over with them today and included spots at the Yeadon Community Park, as well as potentially where the old Yeadon Swim Club was. Management is recommending that council approve applying for this grant. The grant is due March 25th. Please be advised that this is a non-binding process. Upon conclusion of this process, NFC may hold a ribbon cutting and giveaway swag. NDI may add additional comments during their report. Please be advised that Ms. Waters, NFC's development manager, is available for questions if council has any for her, and/or you may provide your questions to management and we will update you accordingly by the next meeting. The newsletter is in the final editing stages and should be distributed in time for spring. We're holding it for information from the county regarding the vaccinations that they're looking to do in the weeks to come for Yeadon. Once we have that information, we'll add it to the newsletter and get that out. Please continue to check borough resources for updates on testing sites and other information. And items to be addressed is the usual. Management will continue to fill vacancies at the borough, and the borough is always accepting applications. That concludes my report.
Yeah, I'm on a call.
That made me cry too.
Thank you so much. I'm surprised he let you get through it. Good for you. This just shows us how adaptive we have become with letting people into our homes. Thank you for your report. Mr. Gibbs, can you present us with the solicitor's report?
And I am proud to report that I have locked my kids out the room. So first I have...
There are people we can call for that.
There are a number of property tax assessment appeals that are happening. I will prepare a spreadsheet and send to council before the next council meeting. Councilor Roadcloud has, and the zoning adjustment board, zoning board, has asked for opinions related to tiny homes. I'm in the process of doing research related to that, and I'll have a report from council, if not next week, the week after. And we're working on amendments of ordinances based off of the report from the code committee in the last meeting. That's all I have to report. Any questions for me?
All right. Is Ms. James for our tax collector? Ms. James have a
Good evening,
report?
Madam President, one and all. For the month of February, we, under real estate, we collected 72,000, I can hardly see this little print, $996. For borough trash, we collected $19,500. And for borough sewer, we collected $34,595.08. The next column, you see discount, that went to the residents. So because of the discount for the residents, the amount of money that went into the account was $71,344.67. And under trash, it's still 19,500, and for sewer, it remains $33,903.93. So the amount that went to the account this month was $124,748.60. The format, you'll notice, is a little different. We'll talk about it next month. That concludes my account.
Thank you. We will move on to our library report.
Good evening, everyone. Due to COVID-19, the Yeadon Public Library is not open to the public currently, but we're offering doorside checkout of library materials, virtual programming, and curbside copy and fax services. We're also going to begin offering some outdoor programming now that the weather is getting better, including some of our summer reading activities. The Wi-Fi hotspots remain a hit with library users, and we will soon have hotspots available for immediate checkout at the library instead of requiring them to be placed on hold. So that's great news. We'll have some actually ready when people come by to pick them up. The Yeadon Public Library will be offering the following virtual programs in March in honor of Women's History Month. The Friends of the Yeadon Public Library will virtually host their annual social tea on Saturday, March 13th at 4 p.m. We're excited that as part of the event, they will screen the January 24th, 2021 American Library Association interview with Ms. Cicely Tyson that was conducted by Professor Donald Bogle. So we're very excited about that. On March 24th at 6:30 p.m., we will virtually present Loving versus Virginia, a conversation about the critical impact that the Supreme Court's holding had on American life and the continued impact today. Our discussion will include special guest Ms. Julia Loving. And on March 30th at 6:30 p.m., we will virtually offer our annual program Spotlight on Today's Woman with guest presenter Ms. Sandra Wilkes. For more information about any programs, just contact the library and we'll gladly get the information to you. We checked out 1,375 items via Doorside this month and distributed 119 5-day meal packs to youth. In addition, we offered 21 programs and hosted 162 attendees. I'm excited, last but not least, to report that the library was awarded an American Library Association grant of $1,000 towards our summer programs for youth for this year. That ends my report.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. And thank you for your assistance with gathering the information for the seniors. Within minutes of ending our call, you had us a format that we could use to collect the information and compile the data. So thank you for your instrumental part in making sure that we get vaccinated. Who knew that would become a library responsibility, but you jumped right in there and made it happen for us. So thank you so much for that.
We were glad to be of assistance. Thank you for asking us to the meeting involving us.
Great. All right, so we'll move on to our engineers report with Eileen Mulvaney.
Good evening. Just wanted to give you an update on the Borough Hall elevator maintenance contract. We did get, last month we talked about some of the bids and one was disqualified because they were late. A second one that was received on time but provided to us after the bid opening, they have since withdrawn their bid. They said that they used 2020 figures and did not update their pricing for 2021. So we're left with one bidder that we are checking their references. We received 2 very glowing references so far. We did want to check a third one, and their name is Code Elevator Company. So we are going to continue to check the references so that we have something for you next week. Probably the biggest thing that's happened is yesterday, Public Works and our staff went around and looked at a lot of different drainage issues. So they did inspect 6 of them yesterday. So we'll be, I guess, trying to come up with recommendations for you, budgets for them, priority, and we'll provide that for you in the near future. We also will be asking next week for authorization to have a survey done of a topographic survey done of the old Yeadon Swim Club as a preliminary effort for coming up with some kind of a land development idea there. And we did receive 2 quotes, and we're recommending that you'll go with G.D. Hootman and Son, who had the lowest the lowest amount for $7,700. And that's pretty much all I have.
All right. Thank you, Eileen. We will move on to our committee reports, starting with finance. Mr. Cave, is there anything to report?
Nothing new. Nothing in addition to the cash balance and the AP list.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Madam President, may I ask a question to Mr. Nichols?
Mr. Nichols? Sure.
Mr. Nichols, the question I'm asking is, how are we going, how is it going with the sewer truck? What does that look like approaching the end of March, going into April?
Good evening, Council. We're still waiting for that approval from PennDOT as it relates to liquid fuse dollars to see how much we can actually spend. I know we can purchase the entire truck with those dollars. So as soon as we get the okay, we'll move forward with it. We're still in the same place that we kind of were. It should be coming any day now.
All righty, and you will keep me abreast of where and how we're going with it?
Yes, Council.
All righty, thank you much.
All right.
Okay, our next report would be ordinance and zoning.
Okay, can anyone hear me? Is Inspector Wormley? I'm filling in for Director Stokes.
Thank you. I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Zoning, there was no zoning hearing for the month of February. No applications done. Application 712 Yeadon Avenue. Additions are still under review. 613 Cedar Avenue Daycare. That was formerly a daycare center. That's been approved. 734 Church Lane rear deck. That's been approved. Hotspots, 1024 Church Lane. That's the Frankie Francis property. 501 Union Avenue, now Swim Club, legal dumping. The 1000 block of Bullock, Washington Woods, which is related to the issues at 1024 Church, since it's a spillover. 425 Walnut Construction, Parkview Court Apartment Complex, which is a dynamic situation. They are addressing the illegal dumping with roll-off debris canisters in addition to the normal dumpsters they have. Action items, trash use zone 1, 3rd Ward, they've improved. Now Swim Club trash use, still having people dumping trash illegally in the parking lot. Met with Public Works for reference to rear driveway flooding issue in Hazel Avenue, 800 Chester, tree hangover street and walkway. Jeff reported it to Code. Closed items, Yeadon Avenue is now reopened. Work has been completed. Code Department distributed calendars and newsletters to the blocks of Normal Road, Allen Drive, 700 block of Yeadon Avenue. 712 Yeadon Avenue, debris is cleared off property. Upcoming issues, we will be starting rental inspections at all apartment complexes and health inspections. 910 Longacre Boulevard, construction of 1.5 story 2-car garage that meets zoning requirements as ancillary structure. Mary is continuing the health inspection course to get certification as a health officer. We're all in training to do health food inspections through the PA Department of Agriculture. Total department revenue for code was $22,171.50. That's my report.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wormley. It's nice having you on the call as well.
Thank you.
I have a supplement to that report as well.
Councilor Rowe.
On March 9th, 2021, a code committee meeting was conducted, and it was Zoom bombed, like I said earlier. But before it was Zoom bombed, we discussed several issues. One of the issues were involve a couple of the apartment buildings in the area that continuously violate the codes with trash. So we all know that the courts are currently closed due to the pandemic. However, courts are slowly opening up, and I believe Director Stokes is reaching out to County Councilor Kevin Madden to try to ascertain a definitive date as to when courts will open up to hear code enforcement issues. In addition, there were a few complaints with respect to the wellness center, the signage on the wellness center. The sign is a vinyl sign and it's not aesthetically pleasing. And during my phone call with County Councilor Monica Taylor, she did indicate that a permanent sign is on back order, but we should be receiving same soon. She understood the conditions and our concerns, so she told us it will be coming soon, so that's a blessing. Also, as the solicitor mentioned, he's working on some codes with respect to tiny homes. We also discussed common driveways. Director Stokes indicated that he reached out to neighboring municipalities to find out how they're going about repairing common driveways. So he still has some information that he has to obtain, but with respect to the information he received thus far, he did indicate that Upper Darby advised that they assisted with repairing the common driveways, and they charged the residents a percentage of the cost. So he's still going to continue to do some research because, as you know, our driveways, our common driveways, are just deplorable. I don't think I was able to finish telling you about the phone call with Councilor Taylor, but bottom line is residents had some concerns. I brought the concerns to Councilor Taylor. She was very receptive, and she told me about everything that the county was doing to rectify same. So I 100% am in agreement that they are definitely working with us to make sure that our residents are receiving equitable treatment. So with that being said, I believe I am finished. Thank you very much.
All right. So I also want to follow up with information that was just presented from our county and our state rep, Mary Gay Scanlon, that Delaware County specifically is going to receive a boost in COVID-19 shots straight from Washington, D.C., not Harrisburg. So this just goes to show that our county our county officials have been working on our behalf. We just received this on a text that they are advocating for the best interest of our county and our community as a whole. So our cries are not going unheard and changes are coming. So our next doses of vaccine will come straight from Washington, D.C. and not Harrisburg. Thank you so much. We will move on to our Public Works report.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can you guys hear? Okay.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Jeff Wilkerson, our code director, public work director is out, so I'm going to give you what he left for me. Snow event. The Public Works Department covered 3 snow events during the month of February. A special thanks to go out to Solomon White and Mr. Lozargo for lending a hand during the Nor'easter. Painting and work at the library has been completed. All PSAB awards won by the borough has been mounted in the atrium. Sanitary sewer, due to the age of the condition of our truck, Public Works is cutting back on the preventative maintenance of the sewer system, so that in case of something major, we will be able to maintain that. Storm inlets are being cleared, and all leaf debris and dirt has been assured from the water runoff system. Street lights and traffic lights are being serviced and fixed as problems arise. Monthly maintenance inspection and all parking meters were performed around the borough. Monthly routine maintenance and checks were performed on the entire fleet of the borough vehicles. As far as shade tree, I'm not quite sure if Miranda actually spoke out on that. Mr. Wilkerson sent an email over today, and I didn't hear, there was some background noise. But in the event not, he will actually report out on that on next week when he returns. Council has been sent over a list that was produced by Mr. Wilkerson in reference to shade tree. That concludes the report.
Thank you. And Councilor Johnson, I was also just asked to share that on Tuesday, President Biden is scheduled to come back to visit Delaware County to discuss the COVID relief package, as well as bringing vaccines directly here to Delaware County. So, all right.
I
Our
have a
next
question for Councilor Johnson.
If
Councilor
I can,
the shade tree list that was sent over this afternoon, when I opened same up, it was approximately 10 pages, and then it was a tad bit confusing because the first few pages, it was numbered and it had addresses with the trees and whether or not it's healthy or defective. And then the last few pages, it did not have numbers, and it just indicated whether or not sidewalks were defective. So you couldn't really put together which sidewalks belong to which address.
and your question is?
There's no way, well, there's no way you can tell which sidewalks are defective because they're not numbered.
So that's Councilor Rocloud. I have the document open and I can see what happened. It probably should have been sent over in landscape format. The table is just long, so after you get to page 5, page 6 is the rest of the table. So it's just a formatting issue. If you see on page 6, you see sidewalk quality issues, tree type and take down. When it was converted to a PDF, it looks like it wasn't put in landscape. So if you actually print it out, you would be able to match up the entire table. So but we can have that corrected and sent out to you. So tag 1, number 1, it has a tag, the location, the quality of the tree, and then it follows up with sidewalk damage, tree type, and date of tree taken down as the last column. So all of that would go alongside 1. So they would just need to put it on either in landscape mode or on a legal size paper. But I'm sure once Jeff gets back and realizes that it didn't print correctly, he'll resend it to us. But if you do, print,
send it back out.
I'm sorry.
I'll work on that tonight, everyone, and send that back out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilor Johnson, there is your report.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, not a problem. When I went to that, who's next on the agenda, Ms. Presswood? I came out of the agenda.
Public safety.
All right, thank you.
Yes, police
Thank
and
you.
emergency management and rec.
All right, so public safety report, please.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. Public Safety Committee met on Saturday, February 27th. We have no action items to report this month. Next meeting will be the last Saturday of March. But there ends our report. The only thing I wanted to add, I just wanted to thank you for underscoring the fact that we are working with all our public officials to deliver vaccines to Yeadonites, not just vaccines, but jobs. And it's multifaceted. It's not only the county. We, as you aptly stated, we work with you and I, with State Senator Anthony Williams, as well as Mary Gay Scanlon, which we've spoken to several times to ramp up the vaccines from the federal government. And I see that she's just responded that's been successful. So help is certainly on the way. And I do want to thank Christine Helmandaler and the senior circle and Mr. Payne for being so available to help us with registering seniors, which is going to ramp up right away. And also do want to thank Mr. Nichols and Ms. Presswood for being on those calls and for creating a system where we'll be ramping up vaccinations for our seniors in systematic order. And we're looking forward to jobs, and we're going to hold them accountable so that we also get some of those jobs in the new wellness center. So there ends my report, Madam President. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I want to also, just some of the takeaways from that meeting, the meeting that we held was, Rosemary Hall, I'm going to call her the executive director for the Wellness Center. She said that this needs to be a grassroots effort to get our seniors and our 1A candidates of Yeadon vaccinated. And the commendation that she gave you specifically, Mayor, for taking on the call and just making sure that your constituents are served. It was really impressive that overnight, and this is really overnight, we were able to get over 100 of our constituents to the vaccination on Sunday with Senator Williams, and then commit to several hundred per week going forward. It shows the care that we all have for this community, and that what can be achieved when we do work together to make that happen. And thank you, Mayor, for leading us in that direction and taking that charge. You're welcome.
I have one quick question, if I could, please.
Councilor Rowe-Cloud.
Yeah, so I'm really ecstatic that you were able to make that happen as well. When the names for the 100 constituents that were given for them to receive the vaccine, how did those names come up? Did people have to call in? Did you take the names off a list? How were they picked?
So we were notified and told that it was a first come, first serve, and within a couple of hours, Mr. Payne collected his information from the seniors who patronize the library. I personally went and knocked on doors of my senior neighbors and asked them, do you or anyone you know in the 1A category, are they available? Or would they be available for a Sunday vaccine? I reached out to Councilor Francis, Councilor McKee, some other residents, and within a matter of hours, it was, we have these, it's first come, first serve. Who do we have? So this wasn't something that we had time to plan for. We just really had to put boots on the ground and collect those names and get them to submit them. We also want to make sure that the process that we use is not exclusive of people who may not have who may not be on social media, who may not have utilized the internet for this type of service. We reached out to Friendship Circle. We reached out to Grace Court. We really just came up with, any ideas and any avenues we could, and got those names over to the senator as quick as possible so they could get them registered for Sunday. And we're continuing to collect names for the ongoing vaccines. They actually advised against, from past practice, they advised against blasting the information on social media, because there's such a shortage of vaccine. There's such a, that once your information is available, that's when you'll be inundated and it all becomes unmanageable. So this is why they specifically recommended a grassroots approach, utilizing our libraries, utilizing our senior centers, utilizing, word of mouth within the community, to make sure that we hit our targeted population instead of inviting the masses to try to overload our system. Right. So they've implemented in several different areas. So this is, from their experience, especially with the shortage of vaccine, we want to make sure that we hit our target.
Madam President,
I actually commend you for that effort, but I am a little disappointed that other counselors were advised of the vaccination and to get 100 people to receive the vaccination. And I wasn't advised of that. I have several individuals who have asked me personally where they could get the vaccination from, and it would have been just great if they would have been able to partake in that effort. So again, when everyone is not included, there will be a lot that is excluded. That's unfortunate.
I'm sorry, Counselor. You've also on many occasions advised that I don't contact you, and that it's harassment when I do. So I contacted the counselors who I knew would be able to, would accept the call and would help us get the word out. Counselor Dr. McCabe, yes, I did. I am recognizing
I wanted you to know that I had notified a number of people, including for the Upper Darby site, a local church that I'm aware of. And I also found out, but I'm not sure the date, but I found out that First African and Sharon Hill is giving out the Pfizer vaccine. So if somebody were interested in going there, they could call them and find out what the date is.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask our management to get that information and maybe get it posted on our website. With any neighboring areas where vaccines are available, we do try to keep that. And a lot of this is word of mouth. I mean, I heard about Lansdowne Presbyterian being able to serve the community as well. So, these things, they pop up, we react with our grassroots efforts. Right now, we have a list that we're maintaining, and we're going to be able to input right into the Wellness Center. So we are, doing everything we can to make sure
also,
that we get this done.
The borough didn't know what time the Upper Darby one was, and my niece works with that, and she said it was from 12:30 until 6:30.
Right, so
Sunday.
that one is,
On
so that
Sunday.
one was by, yes, it is on Sunday, but it's by appointment only. So that's why the senator's office contacted us for name, address, and phone number. So someone from the senator's office, after we submitted the names, was specifically calling the people who whose names we presented,
Oh, okay.
and then scheduling an appointment. It's not like just a drive up or walk up. We collected the information, passed it off to them, and then I was actually texting with Joy Norman from the senator's office well into the night, until at some point she said, "Can you please go to bed?" So it was
Yeah.
about after 11 last night. She says, "Latoya, please send me the rest in the morning. I'm going to bed now." So first thing, 8 o'clock this morning, I said, hey, it's your favorite person. Here are some more names. So hopefully the people that we submitted were able to. And I asked that she notify us if she was not able to get them on the list, because we would then add them to our list for Yeadon. So yeah. So thank you, Dr. McCabe.
Oh, sorry, Council President.
If you So Dr. McCabe, if you still have your names available and they may not have received a call, submit those names to Miranda, and she can make sure to add them to the running list that we're collecting.
I told them
again, Dr. McCabe,
to call the borough.
Okay.
Dr. McCabe, can I have that name of that church again, please?
It's First African in Sharon Hill.
And Councilor Roadcloud, if you would either send us the names and phone numbers for the people that that are seniors that need the vaccination, or have them contact the borough, we can see about getting them put on the list.
When I received the email from the borough this afternoon with that information, I distributed it, and I advised that they should contact the borough. But I was referring to the vaccination with the 100 vaccinations that was made available. I just didn't understand how certain individuals were given the information and not all individuals. This is business. This has to do with life and death. We don't have time for petty games when it comes to something that's serious.
Absolutely. So are we moving on to our police department report?
Good evening, everyone. A couple of things for some crime alerts. We've had a series of mail thefts, not only in Yeadon, but in the surrounding jurisdictions, but a predominant number of them, at least 7, from the mailbox located on Church Lane at Whitby. It's an open slot type mailbox, so if you're dropping mail off there with checks in it, take it inside. Don't drop it in that mailbox. We've asked the post office to replace it. Apparently there is someone or a group going from mailbox and fishing mail out, and then they're washing checks where they change the digits in the pay to lines and are cashing checks throughout the county. We are actively investigating that with the U.S. Postal Service and the county. On another note, catalytic converter thefts are making a huge influx in the area. We've had a couple, not as many as the surrounding jurisdictions have had. Some locations, they're taking them out of like parking lots. They're taking that many. You can protect your car, especially if it's like a hybrid type vehicle, by parking your vehicle with the exhaust system up against the curb. It prevents people from sliding underneath and sawing it off with a handheld sawzall. It's done pretty quickly. So if you hear noise overnight, like I've asked you with the Mission Lock It Up program, if you get up in the middle of the night and you hear noise or something, don't hesitate to call 911 to have us come in the area and check. There have been several arrests throughout the county in reference to this, but those things are still happening. During my Good Morning Yeadon segment, one of the other things I talked about was an influx of carjacking. For whatever reason, carjackings are skyrocketing, especially in Philadelphia and a lot of the large metropolitan areas. We've had 2 so far. One was I believe, kind of a random robbery as a result of a pizza delivery guy arriving and not having what they wanted, so they wound up taking his car. I think it was an after the fact thought. But we did have a recent one this past weekend, right after I put out the alert on my the talk show, and sadly, there was no injuries to the victim, thank God, but the perpetrator involved in this, you may have seen it mentioned on the news recently. The suspect was actually a 15-year-old kid armed with a handgun, and he was actually involved in the homicide of the 15-year-old girl that was in the car with another older male. Both were shot in the head, and the 15-year-old juvenile succumbed to her injuries. But he's 15 years old. He was captured after a pursuit shortly after the carjacking that we had at Parkview. The vehicle was spotted by Tinicum police. They initiated a pursuit. The vehicle crashed. The 15-year-old fled from the vehicle armed with a handgun, tossed the handgun, and was taken into custody by police. So he's now in custody awaiting trial for that, and Philadelphia is going to be looking at him for the homicide related to the 15-year-old. My admonition for everybody was to basically just make sure that you're aware of what's going on when you come home, especially late at night. If you see a car, that seems to be following you, or you're just not sure, drive around the block. If you're parking in the alley, as you pull down the alley, as stupid as it sounds, take 2 drives down the alley and you put your high beams on and make sure there's nobody loitering in the area so that you can safely get into your home. If you're not 100% sure, don't hesitate to call 911 for an officer to drive through the area or come meet you so that you're safe getting in the house. We've been very lucky, thank God, that most of the violent crime is not within Yeadon. So I'm proud of the efforts of the police officers on patrol to stay vigilant and visible, but we can't be everywhere 24/7. The next installment of Good Morning Yeadon will be on Tuesday, March 23rd at 11 a.m. I've posted that on Nextdoor. I'll be putting it out on various other social media sites and put the link up shortly so everybody can join in on that. Race for Peace was my guest at the last one, and they are also going to participate in our garden program that we're going to be doing, the Public Love Garden. And I want to thank Library Director Payne for also offering a section of the library. The library apparently has like a garden area. They've offered that for our use, so we're going to be incorporating a couple sites so that we can get more people involved and spread the wealth of the produce that we will produce from what we're doing. And that's all I have for my report, unless there are any questions.
Chief, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I was informed of delivery packages being taken off of residents' properties.
We have in the past periodically had that problem. I can tell you, I don't recall anything recently. In fact, we might have had a couple last month. In fact, I remember one that was posted on Nextdoor. I found that when I was on Nextdoor going through the different posts, and I don't believe the resident had reported it, and I gave it to a detective who reached out to the resident, and I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think we may have made an arrest on that one. I believe it was another neighbor that actually took the package. But that does happen. Sometimes in fact, that's a great question, because I've also advised people about a thing called informed delivery. If you're not familiar with this, informed delivery through the U.S. Postal Service, you can actually go online and apply for an account with informed delivery. And what it'll do is it'll show you every single piece of mail that you're supposed to receive that day. You get it first thing in the morning. So if you know a package is going to be delivered, you can make arrangements for a neighbor to pick it up, or a relative to pick it up, or you yourself can know when it's going to be there so that you can track it and make sure you're there when it's delivered. It's one more way to help prevent theft.
So we want to make sure that they realize that that's just for the U.S. Postal Service. A lot of things that come from Amazon, Amazon delivers directly themselves, UPS, DHL. So the informed delivery only works with the USPS.
Yeah, that's correct. And my apologies on that. You can whenever you have any package delivered, a lot of the different entities like Amazon, for example, will allow you to receive text messages for when it's basically en route being delivered. And a lot of times they'll send you a text message that your package is one stop away from your home or something along that line. So it is important to do that. And Councilor Rocad, you made a really good comment about people having the inability sometimes through computer knowledge to be able to do stuff like that. And it's given me an idea to maybe do some kind of like a little informative session during one of my Good Morning Yeadon programs to give people kind of a little tutorial on how they can do some of that stuff. So that was a good idea. Good thought. That's
right.
all.
And then Chief,
yes, ma'am.
Chief, there was, we spoke about, you know, the wonderful effort that the Nile is making, but how it posed some challenges to our community. Can you talk to us about what you've advised to change since the food distribution has become kind of overwhelming for Union Avenue?
Absolutely. The Nile Swim Club's doing a great effort in getting food out to those that are in need of it, especially during the pandemic. But it's got overwhelmed with the need, obviously, and the area just cannot support the demand with traffic and pedestrian traffic and everything. So I reached out to the mayor and the council president, and I dealt with Anthony Patterson at the Nile Swim Club. And then I reached out to Fitzgerald Mercy Hospital, and I asked them if they would be willing to allow the Nile Swim Club to do the operation on their property. Fitz was gracious and met with us to set up a location for the Nile Swim Club. So everything is going to go through there now. It's my belief that the 3 hour or more longer that it took for them over on Union Avenue will be reduced to probably about an hour, because they're going to have more space to be able to do everything. So it was a win-win situation for everybody, because I wanted to see the Nile succeed, but I also had to keep in mind the complaints that were coming in from the residents and the concern for just public safety in general. And that location, I can't really assign officers during the daytime because we have other things we got to do. So we had to move them. And Mr. Patterson was very, very good in taking the change.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have anything from our fire department or emergency management? Okay.
Madam President, the chief reminded me, may I jump in just briefly?
Thank you.
Union Avenue, speaking of Union Avenue, the person who, Mr. Santura, who owned the lot where they wanted to put the trash dump at, has reached out to the borough via correspondence. I'm going to have a conversation with Miranda and Nafis. He wants to have a meeting, and I'll report back to council what he says at that time. But I wanted to make sure everyone knew that he did reach out to us.
After withdrawing his request from Upper Darby.
Madam President, as you acknowledged, that probably was not the end of it. So I guess he's trying to, instead of just trying to force it down our throats here, he's now trying to use honey.
All right, good to know. Thank you for that update. I know earlier we mentioned recreation and a brief update about recreation with the outdoor gym. Was there anything else about recreation or any other updates? Mr. Francis? Did Mr. Francis get on? Okay. So if there are no further questions in the chats or hand raised, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining the call. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
There's things like that sometimes that happens, and that's okay. Gotta keep the household happy, right?
Yeah.